Sam Chen is joining us now, and he runs a political and policy strategy firm, and he's the host of Face the Issues, and he's based in Philadelphia. Sam, thank you so much for joining us.
Sydney, it's great to be back. Thank you so much for having me.
And Sam, let's talk about this whole issue that's going on in our nation right now. It is not just a partisan issue. It doesn't come from one particular party.
Yeah, Sydney, you're absolutely right, and I'm so glad you brought that up. It's, when we talk about race issues, specifically in America, it's easy to assign blame to one party or another. And the reality is we've seen this coming from people, whether they're Republicans or Democrats. I mean, you could think of Steve King from Iowa, Republican congressman who's had the history of making racially charged statements, or Ralph Northam, the governor of Virginia, who's a Democrat, and had that situation a year ago with previous photos displaying racial slurs and photos in the yearbook that were very, very racially, very racist, we should say. And so it's not a party issue. It's really a human issue. The idea that, humans are the ones with these prejudices, humans get involved in our government. And that's why I don't really think we can categorize this as saying the issue belongs to one party.
That is so true, Sam, that this is truly a human issue that we're facing. We are both human, and you've actually in your own personal life have faced discrimination and racism. Can you tell us a little bit about your testimony and your experience?
Sure. I think, Asian Americans throughout American history have faced racial prejudices and discrimination. You think back to the Transcontinental Railroad, to the internment of Japanese Americans during the war. It's not something that comes to light as often it did during the COVID-19 crisis, where a lot of Asian Americans were being attacked. For me personally, I've lived both in the South and the North. And as we said, just with parties, there's no demographic has a monopoly on racial prejudices. And I've experienced that kind of racism both in the South as well as in the North. Sometimes it's comments as simple as, I spent a career in government and politics, and it's comments as simple as, how does someone like you, or someone specifically said to me once, how does your kind get to climb the government ladder as quickly as you have? And I shrugged it off. I joked and I said, do you mean young people? Do you mean men? Do you mean humans? Clarify this for me. So it could be comments like that. It's also more extreme. I've been denied service at a restaurant before, along with other friends of mine who were racial minorities. And it's just, there's a large range of different kinds of racial discrimination that I've experienced. And I know for other people of color, they've certainly experienced a lot worse than I have.
Sam, I just really appreciate you just sharing that, because I think a lot of times when we talk about race, it's really looked at as a black and white issue, but there's other, people of color, other minorities, such as yourself that, are dealing with this. And I just want to ask you, how did you heal from that? How do you walk through these certain things when they happen in your life and not to be offended or be upset or angry?
Well, I think for me, it's in my life, a lot of it's always about response. And I can't control, none of us can control what people are going to say to us or do to us, but we can control how we're going to respond. And the first thing that I've always believed in is gratitude, and just being grateful that I'm not that person. And just being grateful that I'm not that person. I have other people in my life who speak truth and encouragement into my life. And then, it really comes about showing a little bit of grace, and just realizing that people are going to be the way they are, and we have to win them over. And we're not going to win them over by just getting angry and going after them. I think a lot about Micah 6:8, where it says, we need to act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly. And for me to do that, to do my part and really show that mercy and that love, and to continuously act justly and be the example that someone else is not being.
That is so good, Sam, that you were just talking about, the grace, the importance of the grace that we need to have, especially in this season. And, can you just share how, why we need grace now more than ever in this situation that we're in?
Yeah, so that's such a great question. I think, it's funny, we talked about this when we did our conversation on COVID, and I think it's the same principle that applies. Again, we are all humans. Humans, by nature, are selfish. This is something that we find at the core of political theory, that we are selfish people. We are self-centered. And I think this is where a lot of this drive comes from. And if we're going to build allies on this issue, which we need to do, right? We need to build allies on this issue. if we're going to do that, then we need to show grace and we need to win hearts and minds. It's not just about changing policy. That's going to help, but changing policy is not actually going to change hearts and minds. And the only way we change hearts and minds is to show grace, to love mercy, and to walk humbly, like the scriptures tell us. And so for me, I see a lot on social media where there are individuals who are coming and they're realizing the reality of this issue, and they're coming over as allies, and they're getting shut down because of something from their past or a past comment, or you're not being an ally in the right way. And I look at that and I just think we're not going to build allies if we refuse to show grace and we realize that these are humans who are coming, they're realizing the reality of race relations in America. They want to be an ally. We need to build allies, and grace is how we do that. Grace is how we change hearts and minds.
Sam, I love what you're just talking about, bringing up social media, because social media right now is literally a firestorm where you see it is just so polarized. You see so many arguments happening. And I love how you say that right now we have to have grace. And even what would you speak to somebody that may have read a post or been like, oh, I'm so offended or I'm so angry. What do we have to mentally do when we read those things, and just to understand that, people are coming from different perspectives right now. Everybody has a different opinion. How do we show grace in that?
I mean, for me, it's always number one, those posts are not about you. Don't internalize it, right? I mean, what people say on social media is not about you. And the second thing is, it's the tip of the iceberg. You don't know what's driving the post. You don't know what their background is. We really don't understand what people's lives are like based on their social media feeds. As much as we think we do, we really don't. And it comes back to this idea of we need to walk humbly. And so I say this to people who have racial prejudices. We need to walk humbly and listen and learn from others. But I also say this to our allies. We need to walk humbly and listen and learn from others. Because if we don't listen, if we don't learn, if we're not walking humbly, we're never going to grow the movement. We're never going to change hearts and minds. I think it's the height of arrogance to say we're just going to block off people who disagree with us. And we can't ever learn anything from them. And what's going to happen is we don't learn from them, they don't learn from us, and we're never going to make progress.
That is so good, Sam. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective and your heart with us. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.